guys, I've had this amp here in the shop for a while, so I just decided I'm going to throw it on the dyno since it's sitting here. But this is the Taramps Smart 5K. Just comes with the amp. Taramps don't have a remote bass knob, but you get this clip protection power indicator. This amp has 2 active cooling fans. They don't stay on all the time, only when needed. Some of the older Taramps, they stayed on all the time. And you have 4 1/0 inputs, 2 power, 2 ground. Very large 8 gauge speaker outputs. 1 RCA in, 1 RCA out. Gain, high pass, low pass, and then your bass boost, frequency and boost level. Very nice amps. I really like these Taramps for full bridges. So let's get this thing hooked up and see what it does. I will say, these have come a long way. I've owned a few of these. In the beginning, the bass didn't sound that great, like they were lacking bottom end, but they have fixed that since like the MD models. So Taramps has come a long way as far as that too. So these have good sounding bottom end, and they're not lacking. They do still sound a little different maybe than, depends on what you're talking about, but half bridges. But these are pretty good sounding full bridge amps for you guys that are concerned about that. Well, let's get it hooked up and see what it does. Alright guys, we got it hooked up. Let's see what it puts out. Also, I don't run lithiums. I run 14.4 volt power supplies with some batteries. So I don't start at 16 volts. I've seen some of the other guys do. So these numbers are probably going to be less because I'm giving it less voltage, but it's actually going to be more realistic to what an automotive, actual automotive application would be, unless you got a high voltage, alternator with lithiums. So let's go ahead and get to it and see what it puts out. Alright guys, so let's do the 4 ohm test. Now this says its output is 2900 at 4 ohms. Mainly this is supposed to be used as a 1 or 2 ohm amp, so that's what it's rated at, 5000 watts at 1 and 2 ohms. So 4 ohms, 2900. So let's see if it can do it. And you'll hear the fans are off. These fans are not on all the time. They only come on when they need. So you will hear them kick on. And there we go. So we did over our 2900 watts. You hear those fans kick on. Okay guys, let's do a dynamic burst RMS at 4 ohm. Alright, 3544. Pretty good. So it's controlling it, basically. It's keeping it at 4 ohms around, 3500 watts. So that's how they have the protection in this set. Whereas I'm sure when we do 1 and 2 ohms, it's going to try to keep it around 5K. So let's go ahead and get ready for that 2 ohm test. 2 ohms, can we do 5K? Oh yeah. It's funny, it stops it too right when it's maxed out, which is what it's supposed to do. 5513. Not bad, not bad at all. So it did more than what it said, which is always a good thing. Let's see if we can get more than 5500 dynamic. Oh man, that's pretty good. 7120 dynamic at 2 ohm. So it has quite a bit more headroom. 4 ohms it wasn't as much, but 2 ohm, wow, we got an extra 2000 watts dynamic out of it. Very cool, very cool. All right, let's let these fans run for a minute and get ready for that 1 ohm test. All right, 1 ohm. Here we go. Looking for 5000 watts. Alright, and there we have it. You hear those fans kick on. So it stops it right at 5156. Like, I could hear the amp stop it. And then the power stopped rising. So it's basically set up to where it's not going to do too much over 5K because it knows that that will overload things and cause problems. Let's do a dynamic burst at 1 ohm real quick here. Okay, so we got 8300 dynamic. So very good. This thing does do, basically, it makes itself stay right at 5,000 watts, you know, certified and uncertified. And dynamic, for short split seconds, it allows you to get up quite a bit more, you know, 8300 and I think, what, 7,000 at 2 ohms. So very good amp. I'm always scared doing some, you know, full bridge amps, but these Taramps have really good protection circuits and they've come a long way. Some of the other amps, the full bridges will actually pop. Their protection circuits still are not the greatest, but these are super solid and those are really good numbers. Alright guys, so here are the results for the Smart 5 dyno testing. This amp, because the smart circuitry was kicking in, it really didn't do much of a difference in power output from certified to uncertified, so that is why the uncertified is blank here. But you can see very good efficiency, you know, 80s to 90s for certified and in the 90% efficiency range for dynamic. So very good for a 5K. And I will put a gut shot up now so you guys can check out what's inside this thing. Alright, and here is the inside of this Smart 5 Taramps. Looks super clean. These are very minimalistic, but these are very good amps for full bridge. Let's see, on this side we got 4700 microfarad 25 volt. And in the middle here we have 2200 microfarad 200 volt caps. These amps do have more caps than some of the full bridges out there, so that is a good thing. Super clean, very minimalistic, but you got 2 cooling fans, big giant buses for the power and ground inputs coming into the board. You hear those fans kicking in. They're kind of loud if you're right up on it, but see, it shut off. But at least they shut off when they're not needed, which is very cool. I know some of the older ones, they stayed on all the time. So very nice amp, great value. I've had this here for a while. I think I got it around Christmas. I think I paid around 400 bucks for it. So I mean, 400 bucks for a 5K dynamic and 8,000 dynamic and 5K uncertified. Great bargain. You really can't beat it. Protection circuitry is very good on these now. If you have an oops or if the voltage gets too low, most likely the amp's not going to pop. It's going to go into protect and protect itself, which is what you want it to do. So you can feel pretty confident on buying one of these, but keep in mind, guys, I know a lot of people buy these because they're cheap, even the 3Ks. Make sure you have enough electrical, especially this 5K. You know, you can't have a stock 150, 200 amp alternator. This thing's just not going to have the power. It's just going to go into protect. You know, the Smart 3 even puts out big power, so just check your electrical. But awesome amps. I love these Taramps Smart amps. The other thing I wanted to say about these, not enough people I hear talking about them, but the Smart feature is like your problem solver for box rise. So this thing puts out, let's just say 5K at 1 ohm, 1.3, 2 ohm, 2.5 ohms. If you had a 10,000 watt amp in your truck or your car, it would probably be putting out the same power as this, because box rise is just eating up the power because the impedance is higher than what you have your sub set up. So I really like these smart amps, especially if you're trying to maximize, because you know this thing's going to put out 5K. You don't have to worry so much about box rise, whereas of, you know, a lot of guys, especially when you're competing and you're just trying to get everything, you almost have to double your amp size, because it may do 10,000 at 1 ohm, but if your subs are actually floating around 2.3 ohms, that just cut your power in half. So that's another thing where these smart amps come into play that are really cool. I really like them. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching, and like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and thanks so much.